All right, let's talk about narcolepsy now. We have here under the narcolepsy scale, we have the scores coming up in the very significant range, and this very significant range of narcolepsy is also creating problems with the excessive daytime sleepiness because that's exactly uh, the most common indicator of narcolepsy or characteristic is that student is tired often in the daytime. They're often nodding off to sleep. We call them micro sleeps, where the student may nod off for anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes, and if not awakened, maybe even an hour or more, and that can happen frequently during the daytime. So you can imagine how debilitating this can be to a student's daytime functioning in the school setting, where he's supposed to be sitting there listening to teachers lecturing or doing homework, assignments, worksheets, things like that in class, and the student is nodding off frequently and not hearing what the teacher is saying, not doing much of the work. It's not that the student can't do the work. They often have the ability to do the work, but they can't stay awake to get the work done. And anytime you have narcolepsy, like up here in the severe range, you can expect that the excessive daytime sleepiness is going to be somewhere either in the caution or the high risk range. And these two scales together are elevating the overall sleep disturbance. Um, Narcolepsy is a difficult sleep disorder to diagnose because narcolepsy or this excessive daytime sleepiness can be caused by a few other very serious um, conditions. And I don't think I'll even go into them, but definitely your sleep specialist knows how to diagnose this. Well, you've got to go to a sleep clinic that diagnoses narcolepsy. And what they do is they first rule out obstructive sleep apnea or any type of sleep related breathing disorder. Because if a student has this very severely, let's say, it will often raise the narcolepsy and the excessive daytime sleepiness scales. I'll show you that in a little bit. Because this sleep disorder is causing the student to be excessively tired during the daytime in many cases, especially with teenagers. So if the student doesn't have the sleep-related breathing disorder, in particular obstructive sleep apnea, on an overnight sleep study, they'll rule that out first because this is way more common than narcolepsy. So they'll rule this out first with an overnight sleep study, and then the following day, they will do about 5 little naps. They have the student lay down in bed and try to go to sleep, and they will measure how long it takes that student to fall asleep. And they will also measure if the student is going very quickly into REM sleep or not. With narcolepsy, because the student is so exhausted, they often go directly into REM sleep and just kind of bypass all the first 4 stages of sleep. And that's not a normal thing. Most students go through the stages 1, 2, 3, 4, and then REM. So they will do this 5 different times. And if the student, if the student is falling asleep quicker than, I'm trying to remember if it's about 10 minutes, if the student is falling asleep quicker than about 10 minutes on a majority of those little sleep nap things, then they will, and the student is going into REM sleep sometimes very quickly, then they could diagnose him as having narcolepsy. There are also other ways. The most sure way to determine narcolepsy, but they don't often do it with little kids, is to do a spinal tap type of thing, and they can tell by that fluid if the student might have the um, chemicals and everything that would be typical of narcolepsy. So anyway, this is if your student is coming up high here in narcolepsy, maybe you're interested in obstructive sleep apnea or a sleep-related breathing disorder. But I just want to say, if you're using this instrument and you find that this is normal, but this is high, you definitely want to refer that student on to a sleep specialist, even if they don't have this problem, the sleep-related breathing disorder, because this can ruin their whole school career. And many students that have this never graduate from high school, and they even go on to be disabled and then unable to hold a job. So this is a very serious sleep disorder that you never want to ignore.